Hey Meissner makers, welcome to the start of Reindeer Days. Now you know Dasher and you know Dancer and Prancer and Vixen and Comet and Cupid and Donner and Blitzen, but did you recall that they all like to sew, quilt, and craft just like you all? So I was talking to my friend Dasher earlier this week and I said, Dasher, tell me a little bit about some of the crafting that you like to do. And so what I want to share with you in this video were some of Dasher's tips, tricks, and hints for precision quilting, for improving your quilting, just for having a good time while you are quilting, whether it's the cutting, the piecing, or the finishing of that project. And then of course I want to share with you some of the great tools and products that you'll want to have in your sewing studio so that as you're crafting through the holidays, you're going to get the best results the most quickly and easily. And if you are thinking about holiday gift giving opportunities, there'll be some things in here that are appropriate for that as well. So let's start by taking a peek at just a few of Dasher's favorite quilting products. As part of Reindeer Days, each week we're going to bring you another video featuring one of those famous reindeer, and each of them has a different type of sewing, quilting, or crafting that they enjoy. So as I mentioned, Dasher was sharing some of his favorite quilting tips and hints and techniques with us. So we're going to talk a little bit about some of the items that are here. So for example, the Bernina 770, this is one of Dasher's favorite machines for both piecing and quilting. It does have dual feed, which is really nice if you're working with a lot of bias or if you are piecing fabrics that are very, very dissimilar. It also has a stitch regulator, and I'm going to show you how that works as well. So if you're like me and you like to create your quilts yourself from start to finish, then I want the best tools for the piecing, and I always also want the best tools for the quilting process. So I'm going to show you how that works. For those of you that have a little bit of quilting experience or a lot of quilting experience, this is a great reference book that Dasher recommended. This is the Big Book of Machine Quilting, and while it is Bernina branded, it does have information that's going to be applicable to any machine make and manufacturer. So that's not only a great reference book to have in your own library, but it's a wonderful holiday gift as well. Now the key to precise piecing is precise cutting. So Dasher asked me to remind you about the benefits of working with something like the AccuQuilt cutter. And again, I'll show you in just a few minutes some of those benefits and why this is such a great advantage when you are piecing your quilt. Eliminates a lot of waste. It makes your quilt blocks square up much more easily because they're precise from the very start. I also like to have a nice set of scissors that I keep close by. There's nothing more aggravating than looking around my sewing space when I'm in the midst of holiday sewing and I want to get as many projects done as possible to not be able to find my tools. So we're going to take a look at some of the scissors that are in the Meissner limited edition quilting set. We've got some great little snips with the hook at the end here, so it's great for getting up underneath some threads. We've got a pair of bent angled little tiny guys. These are fantastic for getting in and trimming away appliques. This pair has a little curve and also that snip, so if you're trying to get in tight to clip just little threads, these are going to be a fantastic set of scissors for you. And then the little shears, I typically cut everything with a rotary cutter or with my AccuQuilt, but there are times when I need to go through just a little bit of fabric, not a huge cut. Maybe I'm cutting off a length of fabric as I'm getting ready to slide it through my AccuQuilt, something like that. So this is a nice set. They're not teeny tiny, they are robust, they've got nice weight to them, and you can cut through multiple layers quickly and easily. So I like to have those handy. Again, these are a great holiday gift. They're available at all 5 of our store locations and through our website as well. Now, if you are brand new to quilting, there are some wonderful books for getting started. Start Quilting with Alex Anderson is one of our instructors' favorite books. Quick, simple projects, instant success and gratification for you. I'll be talking a little bit about some entry-level machines and what you need for the bare basics if you're interested in learning to quilt, or somebody on your gift list is interested in learning to quilt. And then Dasher asked me to share with you a little bit of information about the Janome M7. This is an amazing, sort of straddles the line between household and professional type machine. It has a nice large work surface. You've got some great height here for your larger projects. Because it is a flatbed surface, it's like working down in a cabinet without having to go to a cabinet expense necessarily. And through the holidays, it is coming with a wonderful special edition gift bundle and a rolling trolley. So one of our elves here at Meissner Sewing and Vacuum Centers is going to come and share a little bit of information about the M7. So let's get out a quilt and let's take a look at some of the ways to help improve your process. For those of you that are a little bit newer to quilting, or you're looking for kind of instant gratification, this is one of the super fast quilts that I like to go to when I need something in a bit of a hurry. So there's several ways. The fastest way to do that is to start with a 2.5-inch strip roll, otherwise known oftentimes as a jelly roll. And this is called the Jelly Roll Race Quilt. There's several variations. You can find this on YouTube if you just Google Jelly Roll Quilt tutorial. Super fast. You can piece this in probably an hour, maybe an hour and a half, depending on your speed. It's also a great beginner project because it is so very simple. And if you do start with a pre-cut strip set, half the work is already done for you. What I did with this one to make it just a little bit more unique is I went to a panel that I had in my stash, and then I appliqued the panels in random spots throughout the quilt itself. This is also a great project if you're a more experienced quilter, but you want something to practice your free motion skills because you've already got preset lines, right? So these are great places to try out new techniques, or you're learning how to work with rulers in your quilting. But we're going to start with just some basic piecing. So I'm going to sit down at the machine and give you some tips for piecing your quilts a little bit more accurately. The key to precision quilting, regardless of the price point of the machine that you're working with, is having the right tools to go with that machine. I'm working today on the Bernina 38. This machine is available on our website. It's also available in all of our store locations. So I'm starting off with a 1/4-inch foot. Most piecing calls for a 1/4-inch seam allowance. This particular foot has a little guide on the side, so this is nice when you're doing long strips, or for those that are beginners, it acts a bit like a bumper guard to help keep your fabric in the right spot. It's also important that we are using the right type of thread. I recommend a 60 weight cotton thread. The finer the thread, the more unobtrusive it is in your seam allowances. And the longer your seam, or the more seam allowances that you have in a block, the less space that you want your thread to take up. So here are some strips. This would be what I would be using if I were stitching something like that jelly roll quilt together. And I would just take my 2 strips. Those of you who are more experienced, stay with me. There's something in here for you too. This is for those beginners. Now I do like to cut the strips with my AccuQuilt cutter. It enables me to quickly cut long strips. If I don't happen to have a pre-cut strip roll at home, I'll go to my AccuQuilt and my 2.5-inch strip die. I'm able then to be able to cut long strips without having that little wonkiness that sometimes we get if we are using a traditional rotary cutter and mat. So it's a great way to use up some scraps for those of you that have been sewing for a long time, and who doesn't have a stash at home? Now, using a foot with that little guide on the side, I'm able to quickly stitch through those long strips. Now, in real life, they probably would not be the same fabric. I would be using something that has a nice coordinating stitch, color or pattern to it. And we're going to stitch to the end of the rows of fabric. And see how easy that is with that guide, keeping your fabric in place for you. And then I'm just gently holding the fabric strip, making sure that as it goes through the machine, that the cut edges are staying right along the edge of that foot. Now this particular machine does have an automatic thread cutter, which I really like. Gives me nice, clean, tidy ends. And there's my first row. I would then take the next strip, attach it right sides together, and continue so on and so on to create my quilt. So see how easy that is? But you do want to have an accurate 1/4 inch presser foot on your machine for best results. Now the other thing that I want to show you with regards to precision and using my AccuQuilt cutter is I've pre-cut some triangles here for half square triangles. And now something, I should have pressed my fabric. Something that you'll notice on these triangles is that the ends have been cut off. Now that happens automatically on the AccuQuilt die. Okay, these are designed to make it easy for you to align your half square, 1/4 square triangles accurately. Okay, so I'm going to take my fabrics, right sides together, align those points, those notches or those clipped edges line up beautifully. It's going to go right underneath that foot, straight edge along that 1/4 inch or along that guide, and stitch. Now the more accurately your fabric is cut at the beginning, the more accurate your shapes and your blocks are going to end up at the end. So there's my half square triangle. It's not wonky, everything lines up beautifully. It was quick, fast, and easy. How about that for a brand new quilt square? If a new machine is on the gift giving list of somebody near and dear to you, these are a couple of machines that both Dasher and I would recommend that you take a look at. This is the Baby Lock Zeal. It is an entry-level mechanical machine, but the reason that I would go here versus the first machine in the lineup is there is a needle threader with the Baby Lock Zeal. And I think this is really, really important regardless of your age or your experience level. It just makes it a whole lot easier to get started sewing right away. Beautiful stitch package. It's a nice robust machine, and the accessory tray is removable so that you have a nice free arm as well. Great machine for that brand new sewer or quilter. Also a nice travel or backup machine. Then the Bernina 38 is a little bit more feature heavy for those that are maybe an intermediate, or they've had their first machine. They're looking for that little bit more to expand what they're able to do. So this machine does have an automatic thread cutter. It does have a needle threader. It does have slide speed control. You can also set it to stop needle up or needle down. And this one has a programmable memory as well. So if you're wanting to create labels for the backs of your quilts, if you want to add some decorative stitch combinations, if you're doing something that's a little crazy patch piece, if you have little ones that you're sewing for, I like to use those decorative stitches when I'm hemming their garments. Or if I am letting down or pulling up a hem on the garments as those garments are being passed down through the children, using those decorative stitches is a nice way to do that. And this particular machine right now is running $649. Both of these are available in store, or for your convenience, they can also be purchased through our website at meissnersewing.com. And the most important question at the moment, yes, they are in stock and ready to ship. So for those cool evenings at the North Pole, Dasher does like to curl up in front of the fire with a finished quilt project. So at some point along your quilt journey, you're going to want to take your quilt top, your batting, your backing, and get everything finished up. So a couple of tips that I want to share with you when you are completing your finished quilt tops. I do like to spray baste, but whether it is spray based or not, that's a personal decision. I do spray and then I use pins. Now for this, and then I use the processes that I feel most comfortable with. So in this particular quilt, all of the feathered wreaths, these were actually done in the embroidery module. Now you can do them using standard or traditional free motion embroidery. I'm just sharing with you what was easiest for me. I'm going to be showing you how to do the free motion stitching in the background in just a moment, and we're going to be stitching at the Bernina 770. Now, as part of the Reindeer Days, right now the Bernina 770 includes your choice of embroidery module or an overlock machine. So if this is something appealing to you, you may want to give one of our stores a call and ask about the Bernina 770. So I used my embroidery unit here. I used my stitch regulator for my stippling here, and then I used my rulers to do some stitch in the ditch work. So I'm going to show you just very quickly how each of those methods work. All right, so we're going to start with just this little swatch piece that I've put together for demonstration purposes. Now, this was a large quilt. I could use the walking foot to stitch in the ditch to stabilize my quilt and go across these straight lines. But what I don't want to do for this particular project is have the quilting extend beyond the squares. I want to stitch around the square. Again, you could do that with a walking foot, but the larger your quilt is, the more cumbersome it's going to be with a walking foot to turn those four corners. So instead, I'm going to use a ruler. I have my ruler work foot attached. There are rulers and there are ruler work feet available for all machines. So you do want to pick the foot that is appropriate for your particular brand of machine. So I'm going to bring my foot down. I'm going to bring my bobbin thread up to the top. That way I know where it is and it's not going to create any of those icky little nests on the underneath. And then I'm just going to stitch. And I'm using the edge of the ruler right along the edge of the foot. Now when I get to the corner, I'm going to stop. My needle's in the down position. I'm going to move my ruler. I like it behind the foot so I can see where I'm going. And it's fine to stop as often as you need to. You need to readjust your ruler, readjust your quilt. The important thing is to make sure that your foot doesn't get past your ruler. And again, once we get to the corner, if we were using a traditional walking foot, we would have to turn the whole quilt. Here, we're just going to turn the ruler and we're going to keep right on going. How easy is that? Now on this particular ruler, it has a lot of angle lines, so I can easily replicate rows of 30-degree angles, 45-degree angles, whatever it is that I want to create if I want to make a zigzag across the quilt or any type of a linear pattern. This is from the Good Measure company. It also has a nice coating on the back side so that it stays on your fabric and doesn't go sliding away. So let's take a look now at some traditional free motion quilting using our stitch regulator. So I've now attached my Bernina stitch regulator, and that is included with your Bernina 770. And as I mentioned right now, during Reindeer Days, your choice of embroidery module or overlock. So what happens with the stitch regulator is with traditional free motion quilting, you're trying to balance the speed of the machine and the stitch length by how quickly or how slowly you're moving your fabric. With the stitch regulator, my feed dogs are still down, but the machine is now in charge. That regulator is going to calculate how fast I'm moving my fabric, and it knows how quickly to move that needle up and down to create my stitches so they stay nice and even and consistent. So this is the tool that I would go to if I'm doing something like a free motion fill or a stipple. And you'll notice there's a little different sound to the machine. And what's happening is that the machine is speeding up or slowing down so that it can stay up with the speed that I'm moving the machine or the fabric. So while I'm moving, it's calculating how quickly to move that needle up and down. One of my great skills is not to be able to talk and stitch at the same time, apparently. Now certainly you can free motion quilt without a stitch regulator, but this is just a way to help improve the look of your quilting without you becoming any better of a quilter in the next 10 minutes. So I really like this as a helpful tool for finishing up my quilts a little bit more quickly and precisely. If you are intrigued by any of these processes, make sure that you're following us on Facebook and also that you're reading through those e-blasts that we send out. We are in the process of updating our class schedule, and I know there are some free motion quilting classes in there. I know that there are some beginning quilting classes. There are also some AccuQuilt classes that will be coming up. So make sure that you're keeping an eye for that. And now we're going to take a walk out, and one of our Meissner elves is going to share a little more information about a machine that's going to be perfect for all of your quilting needs.
Hi, it's another Jennifer here at Meissner Sewing and Vacuum Center to share my favorite features of the Janome M7 Continental. Obviously, I love the size. It's so big, it fits all my projects. And 1,300 stitches per minute, I'm moving quick. So those are my absolute favorite. But also, I love the little things that it does. Very simple things. Like when I'm ready for free motions quilting, you just touch a little button and the feed dogs go down and you're ready. And when it comes to stitches, the stitch that I touch, I can make the changes and watch on the screen as it appears. I love knowing what I'm going to stitch before it actually comes out. And another favorite is when I stop sewing, the machine asks me when I turn it back on if I want to continue, so I don't have to make the adjustments. I get right back to my project. Another one of the great advancements that Janome has done is the AccuSpark, and I love it because you can just touch the app on your phone, use the QR code to scan the machine, and it tells you what stitch you're doing, what foot you should use, and what it's for. This is fantastic. It works on all of the different stitches, and for many of the menus, it's already taught me a lot. And of course, I love the free goodies that it comes with this month. So many rulers, so many accessories for your quilting to make it fun. So come on in if you'd like a demonstration or sit down and play with it. I'd be happy to show you. So those are my favorites. Back to you, Jen.
Thanks, Jen, for sharing that great information about the Janome Continental M7. I love that machine. It's an amazing gift bundle that's coming with it right now through Reindeer Days. So I'm sure that lots of you will be inspired to come and take a look. And that is available in 4 of our store locations. Now, next week, Dancer will be sending in his hints, tips, and suggestions for crafting through the holidays. So remember, every week between now and the end of the year, one of those famous reindeer is going to be sharing information with us. We'll have a video. There'll be a giveaway each week. And don't forget that in order to enter to win in that weekly drawing, you need to like, share, or comment on this video. If you have questions about anything that we've covered here today, please feel free to contact me at info, I-N-F-O, @meissnersewing.com. We look forward to seeing what you're stitching, sewing, and crafting. Have a great week.